It's 2005, and somewhere in an imaginary bourgeois suburb of Hartford, Connecticut, Emily Gilmore is positively mooning over the fact that her Rory has been gifted a Birkin bag by her boyfriend Logan Huntsberger.
Wow, cool, a bag.
It's a reaction lost upon her granddaughter, who earlier mused,
I went to school with a guy named Birkin.
I don't think this is the same Birkin.
If there was any question in Rory's mind of the significance of the Birkin, Emily's dumbfounded glee hammers home the significance of the gesture as with a raised eyebrow she spills,
A Birkin bag. I'm going to remember this day.
To breathe the word Birkin is to whisper a holy incantation among the upper crust. To fashion elite and like-minded social climbers, the bag seems to indicate not just luxury or wealth, but a kind of social prowess. One must be well connected, as they aren't often displayed in store, and up until recently required the endurance of a years-long and now abandoned waiting list.
5 years.
For a bag?
And so the bag has become a pop culture icon, conjured in TV and film to symbolize, so succinctly, any number of profound emotions, from a symbol of ardor by the social elite in Gilmore Girls, to the blinding consumerism that led to Samantha shamelessly name-dropping Lucy Liu in Sex and the City,
That's my Birkin!
to a most subtle indication of Lydia's abused power dynamic in the Oscar-nominated film Tar. The origin of the Birkin bag is charming, to say the least. In 1981, Jane Birkin spilled her handbag on an airplane and lamented its shortcomings to her neighbor, who, serendipitously, happened to be Jean-Louis Dumas, CEO of Hermes. Birkin, a London-born actress and singer, rose to fame in France in the 1960s and was most well known as the lover and muse of French actor and musician Serge Gainsbourg, collaborating with him in music and film. The two were partners for 12 years and share one of Birkin's 3 daughters, Charlotte Gainsbourg. It was during this time Birkin established herself as a fashion icon, spending her time in the limelight, painting the town with Gainsbourg, enjoying the benefits of French celebrity, and rubbing elbows with artists and musicians. As a longtime customer of the fashion house, Birkin remarked upon spilling her bag, "The day Hermes makes one with pockets, I will have that." And to her surprise, Dumas responded,
Well, I am Hermes, and I will put pockets in for you.
Dumas surely would have been acutely aware that Jane Birkin was a style icon spanning the 60s and 70s, and may or may not have considered the irony that she was infamous for not carrying a purse at all, but a large, drum-shaped wicker basket, which accompanied her to Parisian street markets, discos, and red carpets alike. The notion of toting a large basket was a departure from women's handbag trends in the 70s. Pockets were suddenly all the rage in women's clothing, and handbags had to step up their ease of use. No longer fussy and increasingly less cumbersome, handbags were still very much a staple of female fashion, and women often opted for a bag that was sleek, small, and flashy. In contrast, Birkin's wicker tote conjured images of the pastoral, and yet her inherent charm and effortlessly quirky style endeared the masses. Birkin's particular brand of laid-back and unpretentious fashion was somewhat an antithesis of Hermes's precisional sensibilities. While Hermes had built a reputation on sturdy yet refined construction and exceptional attention to detail, Birkin often donned jeans and fitted t-shirts. Even in her more high-fashion moments, she was nonplussed and forewent fussiness for a playful approach, unafraid to turn a dress backward, at a bangle or brooch, and shrugging off otherwise scandalous moments, such as when a photographer's flash exposed the sheerness of her dress, as well as all that sat underneath it. When the photos surfaced, a bemused Birkin stated, "If I had known it was see-through, I wouldn't have worn knickers." Birkin was dearly attached to her signature basket, despite its less than practical form and tendency to topple over, spilling out her belongings. She carried it loyally into the 1980s, until her third husband, Jacques Doillon, known for his tumultuous relationship with Birkin, purposely backed over the basket with his car in the aftermath of an argument Birkin can no longer even recall. The event happened just days before Birkin happened upon Dumas on her flight. And so, in the early 80s, with the iconic wicker basket strewn in pieces across her driveway, and the contents of her current bag strewn across the floor of the airplane, Dumas had stumbled into an opportunity not seen by the fashion house since the 1950s, when Grace Kelly demurely featured her own Hermes bag in order to conceal her pregnancy after an onslaught of photographers had caught her off guard. As a flustered Birkin collected her spilled belongings, she remarked that a purse ought to have pockets for everything. Dumas scribbled, and by the time their flight landed, the preliminary sketch of the Birkin bag sat, unassuming, on the back of an airplane sick bag.
They call it the stomach distress bag.
The stomach distress bag, I beg your pardon.
A few months later, Birkin was invited to Hermes to approve the prototype and claimed that even the cardboard version was beautiful. She was humbled when Dumas asked if Hermes could name the bag the Birkin.
So I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, we've got the Kelly and we've got Monsieur Dumas' traveling bag or something. Can we call this your name. Oh, I said, with pleasure. I was so flattered.
What followed was an exponential rise in popularity, with the bag bearing the name of Jane Birkin superseding the popularity, at least in the US, of the iconic actress herself. Not only referenced in dozens of instances across music, movies, and television, the bag is also photographed hanging from the arms of every major American celebrity. The singer remarked of visiting the US, "Now when I go to America, they say,
You mean Birkin like the bag?
Each Birkin bag is handmade with premium leathers and hardware, and depending on the color and intricacy of the design, as well as its scarcity, some issues are limited edition, but this scarcity, while perpetuating the prestige of the bag, also favors the owner financially. Birkin bags are well known for nearly always appreciating in value, and with Hermes ditching their infamous waitlist, obtaining a Birkin is all the more difficult to accomplish, making resale markets a lucrative avenue. With the bag's rare leathers, skyrocketing values, and aggrandized reputation, Birkin herself, although notoriously nonchalant about the entire endeavor, has held the fashion house to a certain ethical standard, even threatening to remove her name from the product in 2015 if Hermes failed to adhere to humane practices in the sourcing of their materials. An activist on several fronts, she worked with the brand to assure to her satisfaction that their leather was procured as ethically as possible before reinstating her blessing that the bag retain her name. As for her own Birkin bag, who would Jane Birkin be if she didn't approach the concept of her namesake bag with her signature detachment? Ironically, she seems to treat the world-famous bag just as she did her farmer's market basket decades ago. It's a catch-all of sorts, often overflowing with knickknacks, chains, and stickers.
All my baubles and bangles and beads, when you walk around, they jingle and jangle. So it's a happy sound.
She uses only one Birkin at a time and wears it into tatters before requesting another. The expired bags are then auctioned, with the proceeds going to a charity of Birkin's choice. Jane Birkin has managed to make a handbag that is world famous for carrying her name, both authentically and antithetically Birkin. And so it seems, rather poetically, that there's only one true Birkin bag in the world.